I thought I would start off by giving you a sense of his amazing accomplishments at such a young age. 29 or 30?
29.
29. When are you 30?
Hit 30 in August.
Okay, same here.
Oh yeah?
38.
Yeah.
Okay, David de Rothschild is an explorer, adventurer, and environmental activist, not to mention a subject in the current issue of Men's Vogue. Born in London, England in 1978, he grew up on his family's estate north of London, where he generally upset his teachers by staring out the window and dreaming of the great outdoors. In 2005, he founded Adventure Ecology, a company that beams his expeditions to kids on the internet to help spread the green gospel. Later this year, he'll gather a team of scientists and artists on a boat made of recycled plastic bottles and sail 8,000 miles across the Pacific in order to spotlight the pollution of our oceans.
My first kind of big trip was in Antarctica, and this is a shot in Antarctica on an expedition. And I always kind of felt that I sort of, you know, I jumped the queue. You know, I was be careful what you wish for in life. It was really this thing of, here I was on an opportunity that was, you know, I remember speaking to my mum, and I was having a conversation with her about stuff, and it was this thing of, you know, I really wanted to test myself, and this definitely started in a selfish place. And you know, the scale of it is insane when you're there. And just to give you perspective, that's us walking on a snow bridge. This is a snow bridge across a crevasse, and each side of the crevasse, I think I've got even, look, a little laser pointer in here and over there. You could probably fit this building, and you wouldn't even, you know, see the top of it. And so when you're suddenly immersed in that, and you're suddenly in that environment, it changes your perspective, and you suddenly realize that actually, you know, it's not the planet that's in trouble, it's us. You know, I mean, we are the ones who are so incredibly small and fragile, and it will just sort of sweep us off. And so that was definitely this was a real tipping point for me in terms of what I was doing.
How long were you there, and tell us a little bit about the goal of the trip?
You know, it was, again, it was, I really had gone into it slightly sort of, you know, I bluffed my way into it, probably, to be completely honest with you. You know, these guys who were talking about different types of knots and how many mountains they climbed, and I was like, yeah, I can do that, you know. And I was thinking, shit, I hope this guy doesn't fall down a crevasse, you know. You know, he'd be like, Dave's just going to tie off, I'm going to get some help, and they'd be like, no, just stay there, you know. And it was, you know, it was an expedition, as I said, which started as a kind of be careful what you wish for. As I got more into it and started planning and helping these guys get involved, I suddenly sort of thought, well, what is this all about? You know, I mean, I sat there quite naively, I think, during our kind of preparations when asked, what do you want out of it? And one guy was like, I want a book deal. Another guy was, I want to be a photographer. And I was like, I just want to complete it with my fingers and my toes and my nose. And, you know, I had no real preconceived ideas. And as I went into it and started to go through this, I realized that there must be much more to this. There must be momentum. And that we could contain this momentum that we were generating through this expedition. I happened to be living in Australia at the time, and was, I just by chance took out an advert in a teaching publication, explained to kids what we were up to, what we were doing, and when I came back, I was inundated with emails and all these responses. It just sort of blew me away. I was like, wow, you know, and they were like, what's next? What are you doing? How do you do this? And I realized that actually, if you think about it, there's that simple premise that we're all adventurers, and especially kids. You know, they have this sort of boundless, you know, energy that just keeps on going. At one point, so we were about...
Yeah, what were you eating?
Basically breakfast, like we had high-fat foods, so we burn around 8,000 to 10,000 calories a day. So this is a great idea if anyone wants to do it. I figured that America's good at trends and things. I've always thought there could be a fridge diet. You know, you've got these massive, super-sized fridges you guys have. So on one side you can kind of eat loads, and the other side when you're finished you just open up the freezer and sit in it for like half an hour, you know. And I shit you not, I guarantee there's going to, you know, someone somewhere is going to pick this up, and in 2 years' time we're going to do life studies on the fridge diet guy, you know. So, and it's this thing, it's like this cruel thing the Arctic does to you. So, and all these things is, you know, you plan, and it's like, oh, it's a bit warmer than we thought. We don't need as much food, so let's ditch some food. So you kind of, you know, you get rid of some weight because you then anticipate you're going to travel faster, and then you end up getting a whiteout, you know, and you end up getting to a situation where you can't see around you, and it's like we're stuck in a tent for 3 days, and then you're like, okay, we have to go into half rations, and all those things play on your mind, and towards the end of it, you know, we did get stuck in our tent for, it was about 10 days, and we were down to kind of like, you know, 3 M&Ms and a cup of tea and half a granola bar was like our daily meal. And you know, everyone was getting a bit shitty with each other, and it was like, did you get a green M&M again? You know?
So let's talk about your next big adventure.
The plastiki.
Yeah, so, I know that, just set it up for us. Tell us about your, the Thor Heyerdahl connection and...
It was funny, about a number of years ago I was just after the North Pole, and I was kind of thinking about, how could we create something, what was going to be next, and, what was the next event that we could put together, and we really try and work in this way of turning the model on its head, saying, actually, what is the message that we want to communicate, what is the issue that we want to communicate, and then we can build an expedition around it. Came across this article that was written by Captain Moore from the Algalita Marine Research, and he just it was a sort of flat PDF, and it was sitting there, hidden in the web somewhere, and it was about this trash in our oceans, and he'd done, mid-90s, he'd been racing across, I think, the Pacific, and from Hawaii to San Francisco, and he was trying to take a shortcut, and ended up in this area where there was just this trash as far as your eyes could see. So I read this and I was intrigued by it, and I thought, well, that's exciting. Waste is obviously a growing problem, and waste takes many different forms. It's not just what I put in the bin, but you could use it to relate to wasted water, wasted energy, and so I thought, well, waste that's our issue. And then it was kind of like, well, how do we make it interesting? Looking back in history, all of the great ocean voyages, there's one that stands out. And that was obviously the Kon-Tiki, Thor Heyerdahl, who was, and his crew of merry men who set off from Callao in South America and Peru and sailed across the Pacific using the trade winds, and he was proving the migratory route. Could people go? It was an astonishing journey.
His idea was that he wanted to kind of really investigate whether
it was possible to migrate from South America to the
right.
Pacific Islanders and vice versa,
right.
using only the materials had available. So he was on this sort of this raft. So that was kind of, it was great for me. It gave me a starting point. We've been influenced, obviously, we've looked, one of the big kind of trends throughout everything we do is sort of biomimicry. So it's nature-inspired design. So we started looking at the pomegranate as a fruit, and the way that these individual cells, when packed together, create a very, very tough fruit. We know that, these, as individual, these little seeds, you can just crush them with your finger, but try cutting open a pomegranate. This thing's as tough as hell. We're looking at the Iraqi marsh Arabs and using what was available to them, this concept of, one stem, and a stem as a bundle as a wall as a house, and creating those building blocks. So they would create these, amazing structures just out of what was available to them.
And I should say, if any of you were as obtuse as I was thinking when I first heard about this, that you were going to melt down a bunch of plastic bottles and build a beautiful boat, right? Well, no, he's actually going to use plastic bottles
in their form,
and other things like that. So
yeah, the challenge is, how do we keep these things together? And there has been a number of challenges in doing that.
Now I know from Kon-Tiki, this balsa wood raft that he took, right? He goes all this way, and right when he gets to the island, he gets caught on the barrier reef, and the whole thing breaks up and becomes, trash to the ocean. Do you ever worry that you may get within a mile of your destination and give your bottles back to?
It'd be yeah. I'd just like to get to mile to where I'm going and then worry about the thing breaking up. No, it's, there obviously is, we're taking every precaution we can. We don't want this to become an environmental disaster in its own right, where it's like, a man left today on a boat made of 40,000 bottles, and now they litter across San Francisco Bay. It would create a story, I guess, but it's not really the right story. The idea is obviously to create something very symbolic that people can recognize. But it was also very much about saying one man's, sort of waste is another man's treasure. And this idea actually of, we live in a system where it's, we have infinite resources, and we need to start reusing what we have, and reusing it in an intelligent way.